Hey folks, it's Tom, your frugal prepper. Just my hands today, I guess. My like GM programming video has done really well. It's got like 20-some thousand views, and there's a lot of questions on it. And that programming has changed completely. The GM uses completely different software interface today. Requires Windows 10 today. So I thought I would just kind of go over all my programming stuff that I do and how I do it. This is going to be a really technical video. It's going to include configuration on my laptop, how I use VMware to build virtual machines to run stuff, as well as technical equipment. I'm probably going to cover some stuff about how I program Chryslers, eventually some stuff about how I program Fords, and I'm going to do GM. I might do Toyota and Honda, but I kind of have to wait till I have one of those to program, because you can't even load the software until you buy the one-day license. And you have to really hope you have all the right hardware, or your one-day license fee is used up, because then you got to buy it again. It used to be Honda was $10 for one-day access. It's now $45. It says $35 on the first page, but when you click to actually go to buy it, it says $45. So, like Ford, they at least do a 3-day license. So if you have some minor problem, you can try again the next day. And with GM, you can load all the software and everything, but you buy the VIN number that you're going to program, and you have that for 2 years. So GMs are really easy to program, and they're probably the easiest car out there. They're really nice, and they work really well. Their software works really well. But GM has changed some things since my last video that I did, and I didn't really cover everything in that last video. So we'll go into it. Okay, so first, I keep all my programming stuff in this Apache case, and I don't program European cars, Eurotrash, stuff like that. Mostly, I have just programmed GM, Chrysler, Ford, and Toyota and Honda. That's all I've ever programmed, and I've only done Toyotas like once and Hondas twice. Hondas are really easy. So you change the computer in if you get the same computer. I shouldn't even say program, because you can just change the VIN number with the scan tool. But if you actually have to load software, that's different. So in here, I have all kinds of stuff, but I'm going to show you today my GM stuff. So I have this, my MDI2, and also somewhere, here it is, I have my VCX Nanno. And for the VCX Nanno, I keep an extension cable to plug into this, because sometimes on some GMs this won't have enough clearance to get to it, so you can put it on there and hook this up, right? So this is like, $90. This was like $150. And I'll put links down below where I bought these. These are both Chinese clone tools. These are not real tools. It comes with a USB cable. I personally don't use that, and I'll tell you why. Or that cable. I use a cable. So we'll go through first. So this VX Diag V6 Nanno. This is where I run my Tech to Win and my GDS from, right? And this is what I program with right here. Okay, this is what I program with. Unless I'm replacing a Saab computer, I'm doing it with this through Tech to Win. And Saabs are really a pain in the butt, and they're different. There's a bunch of stuff you have to do, and this Saab reprogramming is no longer supported by GM in any way. So you have to get really creative with those. Ivan at Pine Hollow Auto Diagnostics has a really good Saab reprogramming video. Now let's go through my computer. So I just have a Lenovo Yoga. I think this has an i7 in it. Maybe it's an i5. I don't know. It's kind of dirty right now because I've been using it to do cars. But we'll fire it up. This has two USB-C ports here, and it uses USB-C for the charging. It has one regular USB over here. I have a little tiny USB adapter with an SD card in there, and that is a 512 gig SD card. They're like cheaper now, but when I first bought this SD card, it was $140. But it's really handy just to have that to the side, and that's where I keep my all data, my Mitchell On Demand, my Hollander, all that stuff for 2011 and back. If I need access to newer car information, I mostly work on older cars for people who are just trying to, get to work. I can use the Chiltons through my online through my library, or if I have to, I will just go and buy the Mitchell On Demand one car access for a month and use that, and I just roll that into the customer's cost. What do I have up in here? Okay, that's my USB drive. We don't need my password manager right now. And so as far as programming cars with this is set up on my Windows 10, my real Windows 10, okay? Because I program with this all the time, and I have to use this all the time. And we're going to go into that. I'm going to switch over to the laptop screen recording. But with this, I use a Windows 7, and I use that in a VMware. And so VMware allows you to build virtual machines. So this is the exception because I'm just using GM's real software with this, right? This downloads the firmware updates for the MDI2. You can load the firmware on it. It flashes, and they have firmware updates out quite often, and it's always loaded them perfectly fine. So the other thing, let me get it here, is about these is the real ones have a spot where you can put batteries in the bottom. I don't have that. So when I program, I run this AC adapter. It can be anywhere like 5 to 30 volts or something. This is a 9 volt off of something that I had. Puts out 0.3 amps. It's 9 volts, and it's positive in the center of that jack, and it fits in here. It's just an old one that I had laying around from something else, and I decided to use it. But it will power when you plug it into the OBD. It'll power when you plug this in. This does not power from the USB at all. Okay, so you want a backup power when you're programming because you don't want it to go down halfway through programming the module and end up breaking a module. And so you'll need like an extension cord. You can run it from a power inverter. You can run it from whatever. I have a 60 amp battery maintainer that I hook up as well to make sure the battery stays charged while I'm programming, and it's an actual maintainer, and I'll take you out later and show you what maintainer I use. But if you're going to do BMWs or Eurotrash, I think the recommendation is 100 amps. GM, it's always worked fine with the 60 amp. So let's go into how this works. Also, one of the things you're going to need is all kinds of USB cables, especially if you have USB-C, because you got to get the USB-C to this cable. It's crazy. If you can, get a laptop with multiple regular USB ports, because all these come with regular USB. But I'm going to plug in my cable here. Oh, hang on, this end. and on this end it uses the mini. And I'll plug this in after I get the virtual machine up, so it will ask me if I want to connect that to the virtual machine. I'll show you here. Alright, so here we are at my main desktop. This is my laptop I use to program all cars. It's also kind of a personal laptop. I use it for fixing other people's computers and stuff. It's different than my work laptop, right? My work laptop goes to work with me and stays for work stuff. Basically, I used to have a bunch of different laptops that I tried to program with, or I used to swap the hard drives in them. What you run into is a lot of these clone things come with these activation cracks and stuff, and they have viruses on them. So you want to run them in separate virtual environments, separate sandboxes. Those are not virtual machines or machines that you're going to put your credit card number in and order something, right? So you just use them for their intended purpose. Now, what I do is on my main laptop here, just at itself, it runs the GM programming software because I don't have to install anything else. It just works with the GM programming. The JBox does. However, for my other diagnostics, right, my IDS my GDS or GDS2 and my Techline, I run that in a virtual machine. So you can run into a situation now that you didn't used to run into. It used to be you could put your somewhat questionable copy of Techline and GDS on your desktop, and you could still program, right? You could still have those all on one machine. What they did on the new Techline Connect programming that they use is it now goes and checks the version of GDS and Techline, and it updates it every time. However, that kills your activation. So what I do is, rather than try to use the MDI2, my MDI2 came with this clone Chinese hard drive that the Techline worked on. I could not get it to work on its own installed machine for nothing. So what I did was got the VX Diag, and I use that when I want to run GDS or Techline. Basically, I have this Win 7 machine set up with GDS, Techline, and VCX Nanno. We're going to play that virtual machine. Make it full screen. And we'll let it boot up. It takes a minute. I think I only have 1 or 2 gigs of RAM assigned to this. You're also, if you run virtual machines, you're going to need a laptop with at least like 12 gigs, possibly 16 gigs, so that you can give that extra RAM to the virtual machines to run that you're not currently using for your current operating system. So be aware of that. So now I have my virtual machine up, and this is the machine that has my Techline and my GDS2 and my global TIS for programming Saabs and all that. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and plug in that micro USB to my VCX Nanno. Alright, and then it pops up here and it says, do you want to connect this to the host? That's your real computer. You don't want to. You want to connect it to a virtual machine, Win 7. You can't say remember my choice. Sometimes I like to plug these into different virtual machines, so I just don't do that. And I say okay. And then it's going to connect it in here. And then once this is connected, you would normally have this GM MDI manager. It installs this with its stuff from the CD, but that does not work. You actually have to use the VX manager. But if you uninstall the MDI manager, it doesn't work either. So you have to just leave that installed. It does not work or find anything, and you have to go to the VX manager. So we open that up. and it will come up and find the VCX Nanno, and it's found it here, firmware, all that's working. It beeps a couple times. Oh, it wants to load an update to the latest, so we'll go ahead and do that. Let's see what happens. We'll upgrade it. So it's going from 1.84 to 1.9.43. That's the other thing about working with these softwares all the time. It is loading an update to something. The GM software can go through, if you haven't used it in a few months, it'll load like 20 updates. You have to reboot and you keep clicking OK, and it's just, you got to do a half hour worth of updating before you can even get to programming. It's crazy. All right, upgrade complete. Okay. Okay, we're on 1.9.43 now. Okay. So, back to the device. There's our device. It's beeped a couple times. It's good to go. So, what we'll do here is minimize this, and then we'll load GDS2. I'll show you around that. I'm not actually plugged into a car right now, so I can't go into the software and do a bunch of functions, but I can just show you how it loads. And so we go to diagnostics, and then we have to connect to our J-box, right? Our device, select device. It's going to connect to the device here. So connected, and now we can say enter, and now we could select the car. I think if we're plugged into a car, it'll come up and ask if you want to detect the VIN here. But you know, you can go pick your car, Savannah, and I think it's gonna yeah. So now we could go to vehicle diagnostics. And we could say vehicle DTC information. We'll say it's got a 2.8. They put a 2.8 to a 6 liter in those. It's crazy. We're going to say it's a base. And it's going to try to communicate with the vehicle here at some point and say, I can't find the vehicle. We'll say it's not equipped. And so now you see there's no communication on any of these. And it's going to be like, hey, there's no communication. So we'll click back. And then we will just close this. There we go. And so that's how the GDS2 works. Now that's for programming options, diagnostic data, stuff like that. That's normally stuff that I'm going to use my scan tool for. But sometimes I might use that. I don't use it very often. Tech to Win. Now this comes up. It has like these China ones and stuff. And you see Chevrolet there. You don't use that one. You use North American for anything that's GM. Right? And then that'll initialize. And so we press enter. Oh, wow. And we go, let's go diagnostics. And we'll say it's a 2010 passenger car. It's a Chevrolet powertrain, 2 liter, engine control module, DTC display. Oh, and okay, so it's going to say the candy module is not detected. That's because it's not actually plugged into a car with CAN bus. Once you plug this into a car with CAN bus, then the candy module will load. So we'll have to go something to 2004 and older. We'll keep exiting back here. We'll go to a 2003 passenger car. I don't know what I selected, but we're gonna say it's that. Oh no! Oh, hang on! Oh, hang on! Passenger car. Powertrain. There we go. I don't know. I don't know what I selected, but we're just going to try something here. But it's going to attempt to establish communications, and it's going to come up and say, hey, I can't find any vehicle. Right? Because the not hooked up to one. But that's basically how that's all going to work. Now, for Saabs, I'll just cover that briefly. I'm going to put a link to Ivan's video from Pine Hollow Auto Diagnostics where he programmed a Saab that went really well. That was a really good video. It's where I learned how to do it. Oh, I want to close the Tech to Win. Okay, and now we're going to reopen the Tech to Win. And we're going to go say Saab. Oh, and I'll change my resolution on this guy to 640 by 480 to make it bigger. There we go. And now we have that. I don't want that. I want this. Sometimes it helps if you unlock this taskbar and move it off to the side. There we go. And so now we'll just say enter on Saab, and we're going to say we want diagnostics. Hang on. Okay, we say enter. And we say diagnostics. I don't know, it's like locked up now. Oh, I just hit enter and it went. So we'll say it's a 2004. It's an older Saab. And we'll say it's a 9-5. And we're going to say we're going to do all. This is where you'll go to replace a computer. You'll say all. You'll read and reset configuration, and it's going to go out and read everything. And then once you read everything, there's going to be another option in there it's going to tell you the VIN number's incorrect, and then there'll be a thing to reprogram the VIN number, right? And then once you reprogram the VIN number, you're actually going to come here to Global TIS, which they no longer have Global TIS, so you can no longer reprogram a Saab legally, right, with any legal software. So you have to load up this Global TIS. And it comes up through your web browser, but it runs on your local machine. And we'll just say continue, okay, and then there's security access is what you're going to want. And then you're going to hit start download. After you get that message, then so you get that security message, then you have to exit back to here and then hit download. I don't think it's going to download anything because there's no security information that I've gotten off of a Saab in there. And it says, yeah, it's unable to launch it because there's nothing in there. But and then you can go through with that security information and program the new computer. So you used to be on the old standalone Tech to Wins, you had to plug them into a serial port on your laptop to get that information across, but you can't do that anymore. So this Tech to Win is the only way to do it now. Saab computers and the older Saabs are kind of a pain in the butt, but there's very few people that program them, so you can charge a little extra. And we'll close this now. And so that's basically what I do with this computer, right? That's what I do with this virtual machine. I program Saabs, and I use the Tech to Win and the GDS2 if I have to, but I normally do all that stuff with my scan tool. All right, so now we'll shut this down. All right, so I shut down the main computer because I moved my taskbar over to the side. I didn't shut down the virtual machine. So basically you have to go click that start button in the virtual machine and hit shut down to shut it down, not shut down your main computer. And so now I'm going to talk a little bit about how we program with SPS on the main laptop. Okay, so what we got to do is fire up our Google Chrome. It used to only support Internet Explorer, now it supports Google Chrome. I might have it under my other profile. Hang on. No, I didn't. I thought I made a shortcut to it, but I guess I didn't. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, so now I have a shortcut to acdelcotds.com. It's www.acdelcotds.com. We'll go there. I will log it in. And it has my password manager automatically puts in my username and my password. You can see my username. You're not going to guess my password. It's a very long, very crazy password. I don't even know what my password is. It's in my password manager. So we'll click login. You have to agree to this license agreement every single time. Agree and continue. So most of my subscriptions here have expired. I think I only have a couple that are still active. But basically what you do is you come down here to vehicle programming software. I have one active subscription now. So all the old ones have expired out of there. I haven't programmed anything too recently except for one car. So we hit view and we see we have this one. And we can go. So to basically get this software set up, you're going to have to go and buy one subscription. So you would, let's see, admin, and it says you need to get a subscription. So basically you have to go somewhere here. Oh, you have to go down here and hit add to cart. So service programming, you would select one vehicle's $45, or you can save a bunch of money and do two for $90. Or 3 for $134, 4 for $179, 5 for $224. So if you're programming a bunch of cars, you might just get the 10 for, or whatever, or the 25 vehicles, But I normally just do one vehicle and I add that into their bill, right? So you do this, you do add to cart, and then you can check out and you can buy that. Okay, when you buy that subscription, you don't activate it right away. It stays in your thing as a valid subscription, and the 2 years doesn't start until you add the VIN number. And so in order to add the VIN number, you have to set up the AC Delco TDS, and it'll walk you through all this setup process and software and all that. And then you can go in there and activate the VIN number, which is great because that means you can get the software set up and see if it kind of works before you have to start the 2-year subscription. Makes perfect sense, GM. And so basically, we're gonna go. Well, we're gonna go back to here. Hang on. And we are gonna go here to view, right? And since we can't add a VIN, you normally would just click add VIN, right? So you're not adding the VIN, but that will take you into the Tech to Win or the Techline Connect and have you set all that up. I don't have one to click on that right now, so I'm just going to click on this last one that I programmed, and it's also going to bring up my Tech to Win. And so, oh, this I also have to log into. So hang on a minute. Let me log in here with my username and password. Okay, so now I logged in and it brought me to this next screen. And so now you're just going to say Launch Techline Connect. It has this Launch Techline Connect as admin. I don't know why that's there, but I just launch it normally. I'd never checked that, and it seems to work just fine. So I don't know. And now it's going to check the leads, check for software updates. And it did not have any software updates, which is really surprising. And now you can see, oh, here's the two VIN numbers that I have in here. Chevy Tahoe 2001. And that one's technically expired, I think. 6/3 of 23. Yep. And now, oh, that was when I bought it? Or when it expires? I don't know. I might have programmed one of these. I don't know. But anyway, you can pick the car right here for the recent vehicles, and you can connect to the vehicle. So we'll say the 2001 Chevy Tahoe and hit connect vehicle. And now it's going to go out and it's going to try to find the vehicle, but it of course can't find it. And normally you would say auto detect VIN here, right? And it would detect it, and you could find it, and you could program it. So what I'll do is next time I have to program one is I'll just do a BB flashback recording of it. That's what records my screen, and then I can come back and add some narration to that later. But that's how you do that. All right. And so we'll go ahead and close this because we don't have the car, so we can't program it. I think that was one at the junkyard that I did that needed a new computer. And we'll close the Techline Connect. But it will normally have a bunch of different software updates and stuff to do, and it will normally update the flash on your scan tool, and it'll go, and it'll take like a half hour to an hour to get all those updates loaded, and then you can actually start programming. Like I said, I programmed one last weekend, and on Saturday I went out and I did all my updates first, and I showed up and I couldn't program, and then they had to get a new computer, and then I went back on Sunday to program it, and it had more updates. It was crazy. So that's basically how you do all this. But one of the things that it does is it installs GDS and Tech to Win. I don't think they're on my main screen anymore, but or if it sees them installed, I think it reinstalls them with the new version is what happens. And then the new version you put in there isn't the Chinese version, so it doesn't work unless you pay them $1,000 a year or whatever. And so that's why I keep the virtual machine with the VX Diag for my Tech to Win, GDS2, and Saab programming, and I keep this guy for the real SBS programming. That's how I do it. And so Next time I think I'll go into Ford and how I work with those. It's kind of the opposite. I program Fords with a VX Diag and I use the Ford IDS software with the VCM2 because the new JRS or whatever that you program with doesn't recognize the VCM2. So it's kind of that way when you're working with Chinese scan tools. I would love to just be able to spend $1,700 or $1,800 on a Cardac, but or a DrewTech, you know, but I just can't. So I have to use what I have, and I make as much money as I can. But I charge less than most people. Most of the time, I make around $50 to program a module for a car. And that's me going out and doing it at their house because their car won't start and they don't have to have it towed. Some of them are $75, and I probably am going to have to raise my price because, you know, GM keeps raising their price and all these companies keep raising their prices. It used to be $35 to get a subscription to program when I first started, and now they're $45. So, and like I said, Honda has gone from $10 to $45. So there's a lot of costs involved. But if I have to program another module in their car within the next 2 years, they don't have to buy the subscription again. But most people have one bad module in the car's lifetime, you know, so, you know, it doesn't really help that much. But that's kind of how I do it. So hopefully this sheds some light on some of the stuff and helps you understand a little bit more. Like I said, I'll do a video where I actually program a car eventually, and I'll just try to get some BB flashback recordings of me doing it and then go through and narrate them. Alright, this is Tom, your Frugal Prepper. I'll talk to y'all later. So I know another thing people are going to ask about is, what about internet access when you program mobily? Do you do that through your phone or what? I do it through my Verizon Wi-Fi, which is right here. It basically just hangs out and lives up here until I need it, and then I pop that down. It runs to an external antenna, so it has really fast internet access, and I just basically just turn it on, and I have a charger that I can charge it when I need to, but the battery lasts in this quite a while. And then I have my Verizon Wi-Fi up there. I'll show you on the computer what kind of speeds I get with that. Okay, so I also said I would show you the type of charging or battery maintainer that I have. It's got something sticky on it. Don't know why. Wipe that off. But this is it. This is a PowerMax. I guess it's actually a 55 amp, not 60. I forget how much this costs, but I'll look it up and see if I can put a link to it down below. So this puts out a very steady regulated voltage. They actually design these a lot of times to work with like RVs that want to power their 12 volts off of a AC or something, but this one is adjustable. So you can adjust it from 13 to 16.5. I usually keep it at about 13.8 for GM. On Fords, I've had them come back when you're programming and say, sorry, the battery voltage is too low. Battery voltage is too low. I crank that up to 14.2 and then it'll program them. So Fords can be a little flaky about their battery voltage. And I just cut up a pair of jumper cables that I got off. And basically took these two ends, and I actually soldered the ends so that they stuck together and the wires wouldn't come loose or out. And then I tightened them in there. It has two 40 amp fuses. It has a fan on it that runs too when it starts putting out some serious amperage. And so I'll plug this in. Now, if I'm at a house or something where I can take my extension cords and plug in, I'll do that. If not, I will plug in to my surge protector down here, which is hooked to my power inverter. And I'll have to leave my car running when I do this too, to make sure it gets enough voltage. But I have a little 1000 watt inverter down there, and that comes out to this surge protector, and that extension cord runs back to my other surge protector. So I turn everything else off, and so that draws about 750 to 800 watts at full power. So it's really pulling that inverter, and then that inverter actually runs, I have the ground side of it hooked into the chassis of the car, but the positive actually runs up here. It runs through this white wire, comes through the firewall, runs through this white wire, and goes to that fuse. So, and it works. It doesn't blow any fuses or anything. So, it must draw less than 100 amps. I don't know. I haven't done the math to see how much 1000 is, but and I'm sure, you know, not all cars are gonna max this thing out at 55. You know, they're probably gonna be like maxing at 25 or 30. So that's fine. But that's how I do the battery maintainer to keep them charged when I'm programming.